but joining us now is that very trophy booking I speak of. Stuart Varney is in the studio, and the crowd goes wild. Hey, Stuart Varney.
Greetings, Fela. What can I do for you?
I mean, radio currency. You've already done what you can do for me. I think my producer's getting a raise as we speak. You can probably cut your mic and leave. I mean, your work here is done, sir, but it's good to see you.
The man with the golden mouth. What can I do for you? You repeat.
Stuart Varney. Listen, I wanted to get you in studio because one of my favorite things to do with you on your show is to talk to you right before we go live. We have like a quick catching up about things, and we just had one again here today.
We did.
And I want to deal the listener in on this, okay? The very basic analogy I handed you when you walked in was we're sitting in the back of the church, a couple's about to get married. And in this instance, the couple is Biden and Kamala are going to marry they're going to renew their vows with America. But people in the back of the church are starting to get a little mouthy over whether or not we should walk back down the aisle. Are you getting my sense that this is a rambunctious ceremony we're about to attend?
Yes. The Biden-Harris team cannot win. I mean, that's just a fact of life, and the Democrats know it.
Yes.
And heaven knows what is going on behind closed doors and on the phone lines all across this weekend. And it started with that New York Times poll that thumped onto the ground on Saturday morning, showing that in 5 battleground states, Trump beats Biden by a margin above the margin of error.
Yeah.
In other words, if the election were today, Trump is the president because he gets the electoral college votes. Now, when that poll emerged, I mean, that was like a 5-alarm fire ringing in the Democratic halls of power, so to speak, because they realized they've got to get him out.
Yeah.
But they don't know how to get him out. How do you get a sitting president with an incompetent vice president? How do you get them both out?
Yeah.
There is no way you can do that short of persuading him somehow or other.
Yes.
Maybe Jill Biden comes into play here. You know, honey, your days really, you shouldn't be doing this anymore. I mean, that's what it will take. Persuasion.
Yes.
Because there's no way of firing a sitting president.
Yeah, and it's a fascinating time in history because many families have had to have the conversation about taking away grandpa's car keys. But now you're taking away grandpa's nuclear codes. Like, this is a far more advanced conversation. But something you mentioned off the air that I think makes this, even more precarious is that they have to get rid of both people on the ticket because the polling also shows that Trump would beat Kamala even worse. So they don't want her on the ticket either. Can you imagine what level of food fight is happening behind the scenes? We're not going to see it. We'll probably read about it in 5 years, but would you say it's pretty chaotic back there?
Oh, chaotic. And I mean, I don't quite know how to describe it. But I tell you this, in my opinion, the worst national security threat at this moment in time is President Harris. If our President Biden is incapacitated, heaven forbid, for any reason, whatever, it is President Harris. And that is an impossible situation. What do you think the Chinese would do faced with President Harris? What do you think Putin would do faced with the mullahs? What would they do? They'd instantly see America as thoroughly weakened in every section of our society. And God knows what would happen. But that is a scenario which could happen unless the Democrats move real fast. Come on. How do they do it?
I don't know.
Can you unpuzzle this? How do you get rid of a sitting president and vice president in one fell swoop?
Well, I'll tell you how you start. Okay, you get Barack Obama's top advisor to start tweeting that it's time for him to go. And you can see the wheels of that little revolution starting to spin. Because if David Axelrod's tweeting it, Barack Obama's thinking it at the very least, would you not say?
Oh, yes. Suddenly, Barack Obama appears on the scene. He's the guy who wrote that AI executive order, on contract. Well, he was working with the president for 5 months. And now, all of a sudden, he's expressing opinions on Israel, Gaza, and he's out there. Suddenly, he's prominent. I think that he's lining up Michelle to walk in, maybe at the last minute. I mean, consider this. We get to the conventions next year. The Democrats having their convention, they've got their candidate, and they've got the vice president. And they know they can't win. So quietly, Biden says, okay, we're out of here. Go someplace else. In comes somebody else, and that's not major trauma for the party. For the country, yes, but for the party, no. They will have a candidate by next convention.
Wow. So here would be my only question, because that's brilliant. That's why you booked Stuart Varney, not just so your producer gets a raise.
What's your question? What have I done wrong?
No, I think you're spot on. I wonder if she really has, and maybe this is how you fixed it, she doesn't have to do as much retail politics if she doesn't join the ticket till next summer.
Right.
Because I don't think they have the appetite to go do that, because they're living good right now.
She is wildly popular.
Yeah, of course.
I mean,
and I think the party would love her.
Yep.
And I think obviously that becomes a liability for Trump. You see, I think looking at the election as presently constituted, Trump beats Biden handily, beats Kamala handily. But I think politics has a way of making everyone a prisoner of the moment. And I think the Democratic strategists know to think beyond this moment. I don't think, faced with these polls, they're like, oh, well, buckle up.
The writing is on the wall.
Yes.
And when Axelrod came out and said that, or tweeted that, whatever he
Yeah.
did, that really tells the whole story.
Yeah.
He's a very powerful guy. He's the guy, was he the campaign manager for Barack Obama?
Yeah.
So a very high-level advisor.
Yeah.
He's the guy who essentially put our first black president into the Oval Office.
Yep.
That's enormously high standing within
Yep.
the party. So when he says, Joe, it's time to move on, that really means a lot.
Yeah.
It just has impact like nobody else could have.
Yeah.
Unless it was Barack Obama saying time to move on.
No, I mean, that's
it's
what I
his
mean.
top advisor.
No, and they would say that Obama is like the Stuart Varney of politics. Like as DC goes. As DC goes, Stuart Varney.
Flattery is the mother's milk of radio and television.
You stop it. The listeners should know I will be making an appearance on your show tomorrow. You don't know this. Don't tell security. But I'll be on your TV show tomorrow in the 11 o'clock hour. It's just one of my favorite things to do, because I feel like people benefit now more from conversation than ever. Just talk about it.
But let me just say something. What you bring to the table on my show and your podcast is originality.
Well, thanks for that.
You are. You're not derivative. You're not passing along the views of someone else. You always have a fresh take, which is exciting and real. You're original. Originality doesn't grow on trees. Certainly not in the media business.
No,
it just
ma'am.
doesn't.
And Stuart, I just want to say this. Well, thank you. I really thank you. And you read that exactly the way I wrote it down. So I will Venmo you the money. It'll come out of my producer's raise, and I will see you tomorrow on the radio. Stuart Varney, ladies and gentlemen, the crowd goes wild. We might as well take off the rest of the show.
Done.